Hello everybody. This is Professor R.M. Mahendrakar from JSS Arts, Science and Commerce College, Gokak. So today we are going to study what is desertification and what are the solutions for desertification. Desertification is defined as a process of land degradation in arid, semi-arid and sub-humid areas due to various factors including climatic variations and human activities. Desertification, in short, is when land that was of another type of biome turns into a desert biome because of change of all sorts. A huge issue that many countries have is the fact that there are large pockets of land that are going through the process of desertification. Desertification is a major environmental concern and a significant barrier in meeting basic human needs in dryland. So now let us see the various causes for desertification. The first major cause is overgrazing. Animal grazing is a huge problem for many areas that are starting to become a desert biome. If there are too many animals that are overgrazing in a certain spot, it makes it difficult for the plants to grow back, which hurts the biome and makes it to lose its former green glory. Second is deforestation. When people are looking to move into an area or they need trees in order to make houses and do the other tasks, then they are contributing to the problem related to desertification. Without the plants around, the rest of the biome cannot thrive because plants help in managing the soil, retention of the soil, and replenishing of the soil nutrients. So if the trees are cut down, then the soil becomes barren and it gets exposed to various erosion factors, and thus the soil fertility is lost and the whole land turns into a desert-like biome. The third is the farming practice. Some farmers do not know how to use the land efficiently. They make essential strips the land of everything that it has before they are moving on to another plot of land. By stripping the soil of the nutrients, desertification becomes more of a reality for the area that is being used for farming. Now here in the image you can see here the part of the soil is totally removed here, and here whatever the topsoil that was there, it contains all the nutrients, but the other part of the soil just beneath that, it is having no nutrients, and if this continues then it may lead to desertification. Next is excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides. The use of excessive amount of fertilizers and pesticides to maximize their crop yield in the short term often leads to significant damage for the soil. In the long run, it may turn from arable into arid land over time. It will not be long suitable for farming purposes after a few years of extensive farming, since the soil has been damaged too much over time. The fifth factor is overdrafting of groundwater. Groundwater is the fresh water that is found underground and also one of the largest water sources. Overdrafting is the process in which groundwater is extracted in excess of the equilibrium yield of the aquifer. That is, there is excess amount of water drawn from underground and very less amount of water is added back into the aquifers. Thereby, the groundwater depletion begins, and as the groundwater depletion begins, the aquifers start to dry up, and this depletion causes desertification. The next factor is urbanization. Urbanization and other types of land development play a major role in desertification. Development can cause people to go through and kill plant life. It can also cause issues with the soil due to chemicals and other things that may harm the ground. As area become more urban, there are fewer places for the plants to grow, thus resulting in desertification. The seventh factor is the climate change. Climate change plays a huge role in desertification. As the days get warmer and the periods of drought becomes more frequent, desertification becomes more and more imminent. Unless climate change is slowed down, huge areas of land will become desert. Some of those areas may even become uninhabitable as time goes on. Now here you can see there are two images. On the right side you have an image showing the greenery, because this is the condition of that same area when it was getting sufficient rainfall. But as the drought crept in, the same area became totally dry and the soil is exposed. There is no greenery, so several erosion factors influence and thereby eroding the topsoil, and gradually this gets converted into a desert-like biome. The eighth factor is stripping the land of resources. In an area where the land has natural resources like natural gas, oil, or minerals, people will come and mine it and take it out. This usually strips the soil of nutrients, which in turn kills the plant life and eventually lead to a process of becoming a desert biome as the time goes on. The ninth factor that is responsible for desertification are these natural disasters. Natural disasters may be famine or sandstorms, then there's heavy snow, then we have these volcanoes, then we have these hurricanes. All such natural disasters damage the plant. So there is nothing much we can do in such cases. In those cases, there isn't a lot that people can do except work to try and help rehabilitate the land that has been lost by this nature. The next factor is soil pollution. Soil pollution is a significant cause for desertification. Most plants are quite sensitive to their natural living conditions. When soil becomes polluted due to various human activities, the respective area of land may suffer from desertification in the long run. Higher the level of pollution, more will be the degradation of the soil over time, leading to desertification. The 11th factor is overpopulation and excessive consumption. Since our world population is continuously growing, the demand for food and materials also increases. Our overall level of consumption is also increasing at a steady rate. Thus, to fulfill our demand, we have to optimize our farming processes to harvest even higher crop yield. However, this excessive optimization of farming will hurt the soil and will eventually turn into a desert, or leading to desertification of that land in the long run. The next factor is mining. Mining is another big reason for desertification. Large amount of resources have to be extracted by industries to meet our demand for material goods. For mining, large areas of land have to be used, which cause deforestation as well as pollution of the nearby areas. By the time most of the natural resources has been extracted, the mining practices are more profitable, the soil gets damaged significantly, and the land becomes arid, which causes desertification. To see what are the different solutions we can adopt to overcome desertification. First, policy change related to farming. Farming policy has to be changed at government level. These changes should be related to how often people can farm and how much they can farm on certain land, and thus help to reduce the problems that are often associated with the farming and desertification. Second is crop rotation, which involves the alternation of different crops on the same plot of land over different growing seasons. This technique can help to maintain the productivity of the soil by replenishing critical nutrients removed during harvesting. Third is education. In developing countries, education is an incredibly important tool that needs to be utilized in order to help people to understand the best way to use the land and thereby the farming. By educating them on sustainable practices, more land will be saved from becoming desert. Next factor is technological advances. Research is the key to overcome most of our environmental problems, and it applies to desertification also. In some cases, it's difficult to try and prevent desertification from happening. In those cases, there need to be research and application of the latest technology that pushes the limit of what we could currently know about the drivers of desertification. Advancement could help us find more ways to prevent the issues from becoming an epidemic. Terracing, which involves the creation of multiple levels of flat land that appear as along steps cut into hillside. The technique slows down the pace of runoff, which reduces soil erosion and retards overall water loss. Counterbunding. Counterbunding, which involves the placement of lines of stones along the natural rise of a landscape and counterforming. These techniques help to capture and hold rainfall before it can become runoff. They also inhibit wind erosion by keeping the soil heavy and moist. Next are windbreaks, which involves the establishment of lines of fast-growing trees and grasses at right angles to the prevailing wind surface. They are primarily used to slow down wind-driven soil erosion, but may be used to inhibit the encroachment of sand dunes. Sand dune stabilization, which involves the conservation of the plant community living along the side of dunes. The upper part of the plant helps protect the soil from winds from surface wind, whereas the roots network keep the soil together. The fifth solution is restricting mining practices. Mining often implies the destruction of large area of land. of land. Therefore, it should be regulated by the government to keep the nature reserves intact and protect the natural habitat of many animals and plants. Thus, less land will be arid and desertification issue can be mitigated to certain extent. Rotational grazing, which is a process of limiting the grazing pressure of livestock in a given area. Livestock are frequently moved to new grazing areas before they cause permanent damage to the plant and soil of any one area. Now here you can see this whole area is divided into two parts. Now here in one part of the plot the grazing is allowed, and then in the meantime what happens is the other plot gets sufficient time for regeneration. Now then these cattle are allowed to graze on the next plot so that this land also gets the sufficient time for regeneration. So by such rotational grazing we can prevent desertification. Next is reforestation. The area that has been subjected to deforestation in the past should be considered for reforestation. Planting trees in those areas are quite important since they are natural carbon dioxide storage space. They slow down global warming and contribute to maintaining a natural balance, whereas using those areas for other purpose may turn them into arid land in a long run. Therefore, planting trees is in the affected areas not only prevent desertification but also fight against additional environmental issues. Now here in this image you can see in 2001 this part of the area was totally uh, barren with only few trees because of deforestation. But once the afforestation was implemented, then you see how beautiful this land has become, though it has taken around 18 years, because for the trees to develop and grow they require a lot many years. But afforestation is a good process by which we can overcome desertification. Now suppose if this land was left as it is, then this would have totally turned into a barren land. But because of the steps taken, now you see in 2019 how greenery is increased here, and how the forest has again regenerated. The next factor is sustainable practices. Sustainable practices to prevent desertification from happening. There are plenty of sustainable practices that can be applied to those acts that may be causing desertification. By adding these to what we should be doing with the land, we can ensure what we don't turn the entire world into a desert. Thus, desertification is a huge problem that needs to be addressed accordingly. And if we take the time to do it now, we can prevent other problems from happening with it in the future. By taking that critical look at desertification, we have the tool that we need in order to get through the process effectively. So my dear students, here we conclude this topic on desertification. Have a great day. Thank you.